After 20 months of negotiations, the United States government and the governments of 7 other countries or entities, because the European Union was one of them, announced yesterday that they had reached finally the precise wording of a nuclear deal with Iran, whereby in exchange for lifting of sanctions worth hundreds of billions of dollars to Iran, Iran would essentially give up its nuclear weapons program, put all of its facilities under international safeguards, including previously undeclared facilities, ratchet back all of the weapons-grade material that it had, but the deal has a built-in 60-day window before it begins to take effect, because everybody realized that the next big hurdle is getting it by Congress. And as we heard yesterday, the Republican presidential contenders as well are all very skeptical, and Israel is condemning it. We're going to talk about that today. I'm Elizabeth Sullivan. I direct the editorial board for the Plain Dealer and the Northeast Ohio Media Group, and I'm joined by Keven O&apos, who is the deputy editorial page editor for the Plain Dealer, and other editorial writers, Peter Krouse, Sharon, Broussard, and Chris Evans. So we had our say in today's paper. Basically, the consensus of the editorial board was that this was a wise move to avert war, but I suspect that my esteemed colleague Keven has a different perspective, and we've yet to hear from him in print, but I'd like to hear your thoughts today.
Well, I think it's fitting that the president, whose promises all have expiration dates, now has a legacy with an expiration date. This was a legacy move. It's something that Barack Obama wanted very badly, I think, just to get him into the history books one way or another. But they're going to be rewriting the history books in about 10 years when Iran gets the bomb. I don't think there's any question whatsoever that that's where this all leads. The inspection regime is a joke. The idea of moving some nuclear materials out of the country when they're done and then moving more raw material in, that's part of the agreement, is you know, it's just silly. Israel's right. The path to war, I think, is much broader and clearer now than it was before in the Middle East. I don't know that it'll be us going to war necessarily, but somebody will. And I think the prospect of an arms race in the Middle East among the Arab countries is, if I were Pakistan this morning, I'd be buying new cash registers because they're going to be beating down the door for nuclear weapons.
But as the president said, without any kind of agreement, and in fact, you know, Iran, as part of the negotiations, essentially froze its program. Without any agreement, they can build 10 to 12 nuclear bombs right now with the fissile material that they have.
And they will.
So, I mean, isn't it preferable to give them enticements not to become a nuclear weapons power?
If you could inspect, sure, but the idea of anytime, anywhere snap inspections is nowhere in that agreement. We've said hands off the military sites, we're not going to go there without permission, and Iran has no incentive whatsoever to give us permission. They're going to do things, and they're going to hide what they're doing.
Though I suppose this agreement will be subject to various interpretations, but I read all 158 pages yesterday, and actually for any site that the IAEA or any of the majority of the parties, so that basically means the West can dictate this over the wishes of China and Russia, we can push a procedure whereby within a few weeks, if they don't agree to let inspectors go to any place that we've identified, the deal is off. So I think that's pretty strong language. Sharon, what do you think about this?
Oh, I think that monitoring is key, and I just think that the am I getting it right?
IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency.
Right, has a lot of street cred these days. I mean, I can remember like during the Iraq, before the run-up to the Iraq war, when they said that they did not think that there were weapons there, it turned out that they were right. So I don't know, to me, I think that they have a lot of strong people on that team. They'll be very transparent about whether or not they're cooperating or not, to make so that way they can be penalized if they're not. And I think it's better that, you know, we kind of do something that kind of forestalls the bomb as opposed to getting it right away. So It's probably not a perfect deal, Kevin, and I thought there was some ambiguity around the military thing, but all in all, I think that it's better than where we would be without it.
One of the things that's going to cause controversy in Congress is the fact that the arms embargo will be lifted in 5 years, and the ballistic missile ban will be lifted in 8 years if Iran, complies with all the terms of the agreement as verified by the IAEA. I know that's going to become an issue as it goes through Congress. Pete, do you have any thoughts about the whole deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to bring Iran back into the fold, and by lifting sanctions. I think if they remain essentially ostracized from the rest of the world economically, bad things are going to ultimately happen. It's risky. Kevin makes good points. You have to be able to verify this, and if Iran is not sincere about letting the IAEA or whoever is supposed to go in there and monitor anything and everything, then yeah, there's real problems with this, and Iran has to understand that under no uncertain terms. But I think it's legitimate for Obama to go in and his administration and to try to fashion some kind of a reasonable deal. 2 other points. Iran, Israel. I wonder how the people individually think of them. Is the belligerence between those 2 countries largely, at the government level, or does it seep down amongst the people? I think if you restore Iran to the community, to the world community, perhaps some of these fears could be mollified. And the other point I want to make is there was another president who did something similar in the Middle East, and it is pretty much his one and only legacy, and that's Jimmy Carter with the Camp David Accords. And I think those worked out pretty well.
Well, just to address the issue of Israel and their attitudes toward Iran, because I was actually in Israel the fall of 2002, right before the Iraq War, and what struck me was that even though everybody there was kind of, okay, we're going to support our ally, the United States, if they attack Iraq, everybody made clear to me, whether in the street or in the foreign ministry or in the defense ministry, that they saw Iran as their biggest regional threat. And I believe that attitude is very widespread, because here's a country that presents an existential threat to Israel's existence, that has purposely supplied the terrorists on both sides of Iran that have been attacking civilians and attacking targets and going to war against Israel. So I mean, I definitely respect their concerns, and I think this is something we've made clear in our editorials, that those are legitimate concerns.
Right.
The question is not whether the concerns are legitimate, but how best to diffuse the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. And I think that the consensus of our group has been that diplomacy does present the best options for that. I was actually very struck with John Kerry's expressions on that as a combatant in the Vietnam War, he said to himself, one day if I'm in a position to try to avert war through diplomacy, I will do it. And he felt that way about this deal.
Yeah, we should never have let that happen. Putting him in that position, I mean.
Well, Chris, what do you think?
I agree with Kevin. I mean, you can't rely on trust. I mean, the Iranians have proved that they can't be trusted. So the devil's in the details, and the transparency and the ability to inspect are tantamount to it working. I mean, we can't trust them. I mean, what I like already is that gas prices have dropped. I also, I'm with John Lennon. I mean, give peace a chance. I think this, if it's implemented and there is oversight and the Iranians are held to a high set of standards, this does avert what, without it, would be an inevitable, Holocaust.
I think Iran is the one that's under the gun. I mean, they're the ones that have to prove themselves here, not the U.S., not the rest of Iran.
But I mean, the U.S. and the other entities involved in this have to hold Iran accountable. And that's going to be, as Kevin said, I mean, that's the test. I mean, if they're going to have, secret programs, if they're, this 2 to 3 week delay before you can inspect sites, that bothers me.
So one of the things that U.S. officials said yesterday in announcing this deal is that for those skeptics who think that Iran will never adhere to their agreement, there's the evidence of the last 20 months when they have actually adhered to all of the commitments that they made as part of the preconditions to negotiation to shut down a bunch of their centrifuges and to freeze other elements of their nuclear program. So, for what that's worth, it does say that they care enough about getting the sanctions relief to do these things. And they do not get sanctions relief until they actually do all the dismantling, mothballing, pouring concrete into things, conversions, moving equipment and fuel out of the country, all the things that they have agreed to do. One little thing, though, that I was amused by, because Sharon mentioned the Iraq War and the IAEA's insights there. One of the interesting aspects of Iraq is that the United States, got a lot of intelligence from having inspectors on the IAEA teams, and Iran doesn't want that to happen. So they've put something in this agreement that only inspectors from countries that have diplomatic ties to Iran can serve on the IAEA inspection teams.
And that would not be the U.S.
That would not include the
because
United
we don't
States.
have diplomats over there. I do want to say, though, that if they want to show, if Iran wants to show some kind of generosity of spirit or something, they are holding 4 Americans there. A journalist, a former Marine, and a couple of other people, and their families have not heard about them for many months in some cases, and they should be released.
I think that that's really a strong point, and there's some concern that in order to mollify Iranian domestic opinion, of which there are a lot of hardliners who are not happy about this deal, that actually they might get tougher rather than more conciliatory. But I agree, that's an important issue to keep on the table.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, since they're still lulling us into a false sense of security mode, they might let those folks go, and that would be nice on its own. But the fact that Iran is willing to invest 20 months of its time into a deal that's going to get them billions of dollars that they didn't have before, all of the things that they pour concrete into are pretty easily replaced as soon as they're ready to go about replacing it. And they'll replace it in a place where we can't see.
Well,
and
yeah,
as
and
far
I
as this idea of gee, within just weeks we'll be able to get in there and have, or somebody will be able to get in there and have a look at what they've done or not done, that's a lot of time to clean up, move things. And this is the most important thing to Iran. They're going to do whatever it takes to keep this going because they want a bomb and they're going to get it.
Right.
One of the reasons, though, the agreement is as long as it is it goes into what to me was excruciating detail about all of the elements of the nuclear fuel cycle that are now subject to control, oversight, restriction, continual monitoring. The IAEA now has these remote control seals that they can put on stuff so that when they're opened. And in fact, they used them in North Korea, so we knew exactly when the North Koreans violated their agreements there. So all of that will be done. And as, again, briefers for the administration pointed out yesterday, when you, and I believe the president addressed in his remarks, when you control every part of the fuel cycle to try to recreate the entire chain from uranium mining up to centrifuges to enrich that uranium, or big reactors which are needed to create plutonium, that is very difficult to hide from inquiring satellites.
Right.
But it's not like back in the speakeasy age where the cops were coming and you push a button and all of a sudden the gambling parlor turned into a library.
No, but they could, with the money that they'll make joining the world market, I mean, they would create alternative sites that may not even be in Iran.
Know about it. Right.
And I think one of the concerns that Israel raises that's legitimate is even if they don't start off going in trying to build a bomb, I mean, with that money, they will be able to fund all kinds of terrorist activity.
Well, I
Well,
think
it-
Betsy's
but-
point
but
is
if that
that
happens-
I think Betsy's point is though that if it becomes too much of a cat and mouse game, and it's pretty clear that they're mostly trying to violate the agreement, that then that's when they would lose this deal would fall apart.
Right.
Correct. And all those
Yeah.
sanctions would snap back into
Snap
place.
back on. And
Yeah.
all those other countries and organizations that are then doing business with Iran will say, oh, we got to snap the sanction. No, that's not going to happen.
I don't know.
Sanctions
it's-
once gone are gone. It would take years of man hours of negotiation to get anything back, anything like what we've got now. It's not going to happen.
Although, it's interesting to me that some of the reaction yesterday was negative from U.S. companies that are now going to be blocked out of the Iranian market because U.S. sanctions are not being lifted at any time as part of this deal.
Yes, but the European countries, I have zero faith that most or any of those countries, especially Russia, is going to be in the mood to put sanctions back on once there's money flowing.
And Russia tends to be a rogue about many different things, but I think many of the other countries would see just how dangerous Iran would be if it just continues to get money and violate the agreement.
Which
And have to make a deal with
European
that.
countries have diplomatic relations with Iran?
I don't know.
France, England,
I would think,
Germany,
Don't know.
Spain?
don't know.
We're actually out of time, but the UN Security Council is going to draft a new resolution that I think will make it clear that all the sanctions will snap back into place if the majority of this commission that's being created to oversee the deal say so. So
If the UN's on it, I'm sure I have nothing to worry about.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm sure there is going to be much more to be said, to be debated on this issue. We'd certainly like to hear from you in the comments, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.